everyone, and welcome to Walford Weekly, your weekly EastEnders podcast, where this week we'll be discussing the episodes released on the BBC in the UK from Monday the 11th to Thursday the 14th of April. And we have much to celebrate. Not only are we back to our normal length episode, but we have Rob with us, because I can't do this on my own, and we need Rob. Hello, Rob. How are you?
Hello, Alex. I'm very well. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. I'm very, very good. I just want to raise a mug in this case of us recording, because we don't have glasses in recording, because I did enjoy, amongst a dodgy week, let's just say, which we'll be discussing very, very soon, I did enjoy that we got to raise a mug or a glass in this case of Albert Square for Mark Fowler and Kush Kasimi.
Yes.
Where they were remembered for their time on the square, when Mark was some kind of hellraiser that we never saw, and Kush was long loved and remembered for being naked across the market. So to Kush and to Mark Fowler here.
It's Kush and to Mark. There we go. Celebratory sip of the tea there. Now, Alex, by the time we next meet, I just want to address this briefly. By the time we next meet, you will be a bit older, won't you? Because it's Alex's birthday next Tuesday, and you know, when it was my birthday, Alex allowed me to be completely and utterly let's be honest, self-masturbatory, really, wasn't it? Because it was my birthday, it's the one day of the year, and allowed me all the celebrations. So, like, down in the comment section, he will be 39, he's nearly 40. Anybody who has hit 40, just give Alex some words of comfort, some words of advice as he rapidly accelerates towards his midlife crisis. Just let him know everything's going to be okay, because, I had to console him before we pressed recording. He's only just wiped his eyes. They were red, they were streaming, his eyeliner was running, his mascara was running down his face like a panda. He's not happy about this at all. So down in the comment section below, let him know 40's okay. 40's okay, and he's got a whole year to prepare for it. So there we are. But yes, on to this week's EastEnders, and I have much to say. Much to say.
But yes, thank you, Rob, for letting everyone know my age live on the podcast. I appreciate that greatly. Yes, thank you very much. So yes, you have lots to say. I have lots to say about this week's EastEnders. It's been, let's just say, a weird one this week. Storylines that were created at the beginning of an episode and suddenly were meant to be week and months long, they've done all of a sudden. And also just like nothing seems to be happening anymore. And I get that nothing seems to be happening. Everything just seems to be plodding along because we're kind of in the transition period. We know we are. Johnson has left. Clenners is on his way. Kate Oates is kind of being the middle ground, so she's kind of like plodding things along. I think a few of the Kate Oates tropes are now quite apparent. The fact that, she's kind of EPing right now. She's running the show. So let's start then with Jean's storyline, which again hasn't really moved on very much. There's still a lot of concern with Stacey, but the main thing is she came back from her night out. We were a bit concerned she got into a car with an anonymous stranger, came back with scuff marks on her knees, looking a bit worse for wear, had gone to a stag do, caught the bouquet because the stag do the wedding just so happened to be at the Queen Vic, and then asked Harvey to marry her. He accepted, but on the one proviso that he would go see the doctor because he made the agreement with Stacey. But the doctor said that everything was fine. But then Stacey had a light bulb moment and realised that actually Jean hasn't changed her meds for over a year. So perhaps that might be the problem. So this is all, again, it feels like Jean's cancer storyline. It feels like it was taking this long for us to get to this point. And the outcome really wasn't as wonderful or as a greater moment as perhaps the showrunner, Kate, thought it might well have been. What were your thoughts on the story with Jean?
I quite like the Jean stuff this week. In fact, I would say that the Jean story was the highlight for me this week. I think this has brought out a whole new side of sort of Gillian Wright's portrayal of Jean, because we've not really seen Jean go quite like this with bipolar before. We've seen her in the past where Jean tends to be sort of like a shell of her former self when we've seen her be like this previously. Whereas this time, she's manic. She's saying things that just occur to her off the top of her head. And I like that side of Jean. Frankly, I hope they keep this side of Jean where she will just say anything, no matter how offensive it is. There was a nice moment where she stole Linda's scarf and Nancy challenged her on it. And Jean told her, well, if she's looking for a scarf, maybe she should look at the bottom of a bottle. Perfect. I like that. I like this side of Jean a lot. the whole thing with the medication, I don't know how true it is. I'm going to trust them and say that this is absolutely right. I don't know how careful the doctors are with making sure that people who are taking this medication are with regular updates. I didn't even, to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't even know that the medication had to be updated. You know, is that a common knowledge thing? Because I certainly didn't know about that. Did you? Yeah, you clearly did.
Well, no, I don't. I mean, I didn't know, but it seems reasonable to come to that assumption because it's anything.
It seems reasonable.
You always need to see a doctor every kind of few months, especially if you have a long-term illness that you always need to have keep checked, updated. And I suppose that's what Stacey discovered, that Jean hadn't been updated. Jean hadn't been going to the doctor regularly. So even though she was doing all the right things, it wasn't necessarily working for her benefit, which was a shame for Jean. Yes. And that's what was worrying Stacey. And that's what she was then trying to warn Harvey about. But Harvey was having none of it.
Yes. Harvey's confused me a little bit because I had a feeling that the only reason that we were really told about Harvey's past relationships with his ex-missus apparently having mental health problems was that he was going to be bang on this. And that he was going to be able to recognise the signs and be able to deal with Jean. And the truth seems to be that he's an idiot in a lot of ways with this sort of thing. He's sort of just taken this woman who is... I mean, in all fairness, it's quite similar to kind of what we've seen with Harvey in the past, that he's quite a basic bloke at the end of the day, isn't he? You know, he's quite happy just to have this woman kind of... Well, he is a bit, isn't he?
Like a Kathy Bill sandwich.
Just to sort of... Yeah, he seems quite happy to sort of just have Jean get up at 4:30 in the morning and clean the drains and make him his breakfast and, you know,
bake him cakes,
gyrate against him every so often. Yeah, and bake him and bake stuff, and he's quite happy with that. And the fact that she proposed to him, she doesn't see as an issue whatsoever. Of course, you proposed to me. I'm a god. Why wouldn't you propose to me? I drive a taxi. So I wonder how long it's going to be before Harvey really starts to recognise something. You would have thought that when she sort of threw herself at Rocky, that might have set alarm bells ringing ever so slightly, but apparently not. You know, he just thought that Jean was having, you know, a woman moment or something. You know, even Rocky has been more perceptive about Jean than Harvey is at the moment. So what does that tell you? So you say that it's going on a bit too long. Personally, I kind of think that, you know, this is bipolar disorder, and if that's the right word, and people live with this, and these episodes can go on for months, sometimes even years. So EastEnders doing it for a few weeks, I don't think is a problem. In fact, I welcome it. I welcome them going on with this for quite a lot longer. To be honest, I think what it's doing at the moment, especially the last episode of the week, sort of highlighted the issues that the NHS are having with mental health problems at the moment. I know you like to accuse the show of having a bash at the NHS every now and again. I don't think this was one of those.
They do enjoy it.
An occasion where that was happening. Well, you say
but
this.
You're right.
I've
yes,
never noticed
because there is a long delay with mental health issues. I know of people who are
massively
on that long delay with mental health issues, and there's a huge waiting list. Obviously, there's a huge waiting list for a lot of things in the NHS right now. Basically, COVID has caused it. Mismanagement by the government. Who knows? But you know, we're not going to get into that discussion. But you're right. I'd still stand that they do like to bash the NHS sometimes on the show. But you're absolutely right on this, especially on this occasion, that there is a delay. There's a long waiting list. So to kind of, art imitating life. Is the right thing to do for that. Do you think Harvey is a little bit afraid, and that's why he's decided to take Jean on for getting married? Because this week he also had a encounter with Neil, where Neil was strangling him with the seatbelt, and told him to take a gun into Aaron into prison. And he also found out that Dana has got the university placement, and she was afraid of telling him, but he said, you should go in September. Would be a sad moment if Dana was to go, but again, that would be a moment for Harvey losing someone he loved. So he's basically, his whole world is kind of like dispersing around him. And do you think the reason why he's kind of putting Shield up against, seeing what Jean's up to and getting married to Jean is partly to blame the fact that he's feeling a bit lonely and feeling like, as a simple man, he needs his simple pleasures, and that is a woman on his arm.
Bit of the old empty nest syndrome, you mean? It's possible. The whole Neil thing, I wasn't expecting Nanny Boy Psycho to turn up again this week. Was it a gun? I thought it was a mobile phone that he wanted Harvey to take into prison. Was it?
It might have been a mobile phone. Sorry, I'm confusing.
I thought it was a mobile phone. That's all right.
I think you're right.
There's always a gun floating around Walford. There's always a gun floating around Walford somewhere. It's understandable. Yes, I wasn't expecting him to show up again this week. So the Aaron story is sort of rumbling along in the background ever so at some point we're due a new climax with that, I think, because it sort of keeps popping its head up above the surface and then disappearing again, doesn't it? So I'm intrigued to see where that's going. With Dana, she better not be bloody leaving, because I really like Dana. Her and Bobby aren't still together at the moment, are they? It seems like months and months ago since
No.
the Bobby and Dana thing was a thing. Are they not on at the moment? I can't remember. Was that last scene of sort of Aaron's crimes being exposed in the restaurant? That was the end of their relationship, was it, as we know it?
That was the end of their relationship. I made that mistake
okay.
too, but yes, that was the end of their relationship.
Because to be fair, Bobby's not really been. We have not seen Bobby very much over the past few weeks, so I kind of couldn't remember where they were together. So yeah, that was a good moment for the week. I'm intrigued to sort of see where this goes from here. Jean is just kind of. Really, she's getting worse. It seems that the night out that she had with a guy called Bungalow, I think that might have been an example of the writers literally pulling a word out of their heads. Didn't even need to make sense of it in the context of the scene. Let's just call him Bungalow because he lives in a bungalow. That didn't take very long for them to come up with, I suspect. But so Jean is basically just doing what Stacey was doing at the age of 20, and just going and just doing mad things, and just going on nights out and turning up with grazed knees and having fallen over and trying to have mad sex with everybody. God knows who she came on to on the night that she went out, because it seems that that's the sort of mindset Jean's in at the moment. So yes, Jean stuff, very well done. I'm excited to see more of it. Where do you think this is going to go now? Because obviously the wedding is apparently getting planned. Do you think this wedding is going to go ahead? Do you think that Jean and Harvey are actually going to make it down the aisle?
I feel like I'm having a fever dream, because I'm sure wasn't there photos leaked of Jean and Harvey filming scenes on a seaside town, like Clapton or something like that? Or did I imagine that? So I'm presuming something really bad's going to happen there. Yeah. So I'm guessing that's where the fallout is going to officially kind of topple. And I guess that's going to happen not next week, but maybe the week or some time before Clenners comes in and starts like sorting out the show a little bit and shuffling his papers and kind of getting things in order, getting his ducks in a row. I can't imagine this going on for much longer. I'm taking a step back actually and listening to what you were saying about actually really we should there should be more time put into a story like this. You are right. There should be more time put in a story like this. It feels like with Jean, like the same kind of, the same thing kind of happens all the time. No, I'm not an impatient person. You know I'm not, because I like a long-term storyline. And we'll get to a story that wasn't particularly a long-term storyline, and yet just seemed to rear its head from nowhere in a short moment. But one last thing I wanted to say about the Jean and Harvey story is that something you also said was that Jean has been stealing a lot as well. She stole the scarf, she stole the ring. I suppose to a lesser extent, she stole the knife. Do you think that's going to be the ultimate way they're going to find out about her? That you know, the shop owner's going to kind of report that she got the ring, and then that's kind of be that she gets arrested, and then she gets the help she needs. Maybe that's the route they're taking.
I thought that the whole, I don't, admittedly, I haven't been in many jewellery shops in my time. I thought ring shops had, sort of kind of chains on the rings so that exactly what Jean did couldn't be done. I thought, elasticated, I think that there is supposed to be some sort of cord wrapped around rings that you can try them on, but you can't then just walk out of the shop and replace it with the one that you're wearing. So I don't know, but I think the theft thing is probably likely to rear its head. It seems like Jean's been stealing for a very, very long time, doesn't it? I hesitate to credit it for being planned that far ahead from all the time ago when Sharon and Suki stole some wine or something from Suki's from the Suki bar. I don't think this has been. Do you think it could have been? Because Jean really
I don't think they referred to that at all. But it's nice that you think that they did.
They stole those things. Jean is a thief. Yes, that'll work. Yeah, let's do that some more. Possible. But so yeah, there we go. So yeah, the Jean stuff I look forward to developing over the next few weeks. So please give us more of that, because that's great.
Yes. And one quick shout out to the most MVP of the week, and that is the jewellery shop owner who gave us her life story of how she's divorced. For me, performance of the week.
Carrot of the week. I liked her.
So, as you said,
her. You can come back.
Do more. So here we go then. So Balaam So the week began, I thought, oh, hang on, we're on the Ballon merry-go-round again. They're having arguments over something quite mundane. So Callum wanted to, or is modelling for a police photo shoot so they can enrol more LGBTQ plus police officers onto the beat. And he was very flattered that he was asked. And Vi was very vocal, quite loud about it too. Ben wasn't too happy about it, took the phone call and kind of got it cancelled, but then Callum got it rebooked and said, oh, you know how embarrassing it is that I had to phone up the modelling agency and get that sorted out. In the meantime, in the background, a man was reading a newspaper, said that there's a killer on the loose, the Walford attacker. Out of the blue. But the camera focused on that newspaper article. So we thought, hang on, is this going to be is this going to be a Kate Oates kind of little story? She's going to just introduce a character and there's going to be an attacker. That would have been nice. You know, the residents of the square could have fear for their lives. There's an attacker on the square.
I would have loved that.
It got explained.
No.
Yeah, it would have been lovely, but it got explained away no less than 20 minutes later, where we see Ben beating up a homophobic guy. Sharon witnessed it, and then Ben admitted that this isn't the first time he's done it. No. Not Batman Ben. He's doing it for 4 months. He's done it 4 other times prior.
Because as Callum says, this is the 4th attack in as many months. Because nobody ever gets attacked in London, so that must mean that these attacks are all connected. Because EastEnders is a little village where about 20 people live, so there must be a connection between all the attacks and not the largest city in the United Kingdom. What are you talking about, you absolute madheads? What was this? What is this mess? What are you trying to do to us, EastEnders? I mean, for a start, what I want to address first of all was my favourite bit of all of this was Sharon walking along the street, having a phone call, having a bitchy conversation with her supplier at the gym, and then ending her business telephone call to go and investigate the sounds of a fight going on down an alleyway. I enjoyed that. That was probably the best part of the week. This is madness. This is absolute madness. For a start, I wouldn't have minded. This might have felt a bit better if they had sort of suggested that Ben. I know we've sort of looked. If the best that they were giving with this is when they've said that Ben is sort of emerging hungover, and we've kind of gone, oh well, Ben's been on the lash because he's depressed. That that's fine. But apparently, for the past 4 months, Ben has been out vigilanteing homophobes or people that he perceives as being homophobes and beating them senseless, but he's only done it 4 times because it's as many attacks in as many months as we're reliably informed by Chief Inspector Halfway, who's leading the investigation, it would appear. I don't know. And Ben is apparently going around beating up homophobes. I mean, I wouldn't have minded this so much if we'd had some sort of hinting going on over the past couple of months. It might have been a nice little mystery bubbling under, what's going on. They could have dragged this whole sort of mystery attacker thing out. That would have been a really good story. And when that paper headline first appeared on whatever episode it was, Tuesday's episode, I was like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is exciting. But as you say, it was all solved within its own little episode. And it was just like, why? What? That's rubbish. Why would you do that? That's just rubbish. Now, the thing is, we need to address something quite serious here. It's because this still is the story of Ben dealing with his sort of internalised homophobia and dealing with bigoted behaviour and seeing it on the streets and how he is reacting to that. Serious story within itself.
It's his PTSD as well from when Paul was attacked.
Yes, it is. Forget. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And a very important story. And we have spoken previously quite openly about sort of our own experiences with homophobia, and talking about how traumatic that can be. And that is a fair enough story to be telling. However, this isn't. This whole thing with Ben.
No.
I mean, the thing is, it's sort of, yeah, I can see, I'll rephrase that. I can definitely see this Ben doing that. And sort of going around. The thing is, it's very confusing and sort of makes Ben a bit of an inconsistent character because it seems like Ben is all of a sudden, quite jumpy and terrified of confrontation. Bearing in mind that this is also the same guy who not 2 years ago was almost getting an erotic feeling out of being beaten up, if you remember, quite a while back within this era. Was also the same guy that apparently could muster up a whole gang to dangle Martin from a bridge. That's the same Ben. No, none of that side of his character has come out again. And now he's sort of all jumpy at the sound of someone dropping a glass in the club, but then he's also going around beating up people that he perceives as homophobic and leaving them and seeing that as some sort of amazing thing to be doing for his part in the gay community, whilst his husband is trying to be a voice and a picture for the gay community and being a model for the police. It's all a bit messy, isn't it? I don't understand any of this.
It's a bit messy. It's a bit messy, and it's a bit inexcusable in my opinion. I think that portraying it this way is not the right way to portray it. I'm sorry, it's not. I get that Ben would be upset about Callum wanting to do the photo shoot. If that was it, then I'd get it, because obviously he doesn't like kind of presenting himself as gay. He never has the character of Ben Mitchell. He's never been very upfront with his sexuality in front of people, which is fine. But as you quite well just described, Ben Mitchell seems to be a very changeable character depending on either the mood or what the situation calls for. And it doesn't seem right in this occasion either. Like, you know, when this Ben Mitchell was reintroduced by Kate Oates, he was people trafficking. And then it's like the road from there to now him becoming some kind of vigilante homosexual, you know, who beats up homophobic people. It's not, this is, you know, going to an old adage when my dad used to say, 2 wrongs don't make a right. So don't do that. Don't, you know, just because what they're doing isn't the right thing to do, it doesn't mean that it's excusable for you then to beat them to a pulp in that way. And just going back to the fact I was talking about the newspaper article, I didn't link it that it was going to be a Ben Mitchell story. I thought they were going to do a little bit of a wink and a nod to the 1987 story where, like, there was an actual attacker in Walford when Pat wore the wig and, you know, and I thought, you know, that's, you know, I thought that was quite all right. I'd be up for that. You know, a little bit of a little 3-4 week kind of little side story for maybe some of the B or C, a little mystery C or B list characters on the square. That would be a bit of fun. And watching the scenes with Rocky and Kathy this week, it would have been nice if Kathy could ultimately been almost attacked and Rocky kind of stepped in and kind of saved her, other than her having her handbag stolen.
Yeah, no, I agree, because the frustrating thing about that was the fact that no mention. All of a sudden, Tuesday's episode, it's on the front of papers. Everybody in the square is talking about it. Oh, you've heard about these? Oh, this attack needs to stop. Even Phil has heard about it, who's in prison and isolated from the rest of... Oh, yeah, I know about these attacks. Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. How the hell does Phil know about it? Like, it's just kind of a bit sort of like, oh, right, okay, got it. Yeah, you want us to know that, so now it just felt a little bit crap. You know, so it's this also, what we should also mention is a new arrival of Lewis. I think his name's Lewis Butler, and he is now the manager of the Albert. I like him. And to be perfectly honest with you, are you sensing a bit right? And I actually have no issues with this, because Ballum are getting to the point now where I want them to sort of, because they're not working for me anymore. All right, as a couple, it seems that there is too much.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I would quite like. Yeah, I'd like to be divorced, please. I would quite enjoy Lewis kind of having an affair with one of them. If I'm honest, I wouldn't mind, and preferably Callum, because Callum's apparently not averse to an affair. As you will remember, that's how he got with Ben in the first place. He does seem that he has more of a free shot with Ben at the moment. I can sort of see Ben.
That's what I think.
Maybe going there. Yeah, I don't mind that, honestly. If Lewis comes and does something interesting with Ballum, he will be character of the year for me. I have a nice accent, so I think honestly, his accent on Zack's body.
I think if Lewis was to break up Ballum, I think that would ultimately be the end of Ballum, unless they kind of give that kind of short story where he kind of breaks them and then Ben and Callum leave together. That's the only thing I can think of happening. But then, so it doesn't really work out very nicely for Ballum fans in either way, really. Wherever you flip the coin, on one side they break up Ballum, on the other side Ballum leaves the show. So
please do let us know in the comment section below what the hell you made of this story, where you think this is going. There was a comment on Facebook that you must remind me to read out at the end from one of our listeners who was talking about this story, and I do remind me to read it out at the end in I Don't Want to Gossip, because it was a very interesting point. But do let us know down below what you make of this story, where you think the future of this story is going, and do you believe that Lewis is a threat to Balaam? He has been brought in for a reason, and it's not just to make my ears happy. So what do you think Lewis is for? Let us know in the comment section below, please. Thank you.
We should also just say that Sharon visited against Kat's wishes Phil in prison this week, and yes. Phil has finally made the deal with Keeble. Basically, he's singing like a canary because he's basically said to her, "You are going to get promoted through your team. You're gonna be the new."
Welcome to Cressida Dick's replacement. Yeah.
because Phil said that his family comes first, and so he needs to kind of make the deal with her. So, I mean, this is a turn of events for Phil. So, again, is there long for Phil now? Now he's become a grass, or is he going to turn against his own plan? Is he going to get out of prison? And he wants to make an international call this week, which can only mean one thing: Sam Mitchell.
Actually, yeah, that's true. I was thinking Ronnie and Roxy, but no, Sam Mitchell's probably more likely. Because Ronnie and Roxy are currently living in Portugal. Did you know that, Alex? That's where they currently are, just kind of sunning it up, living in Ibiza or Portugal, one of the two. Yes. I don't mind.
So you believe?
Yes, I do. It's true. I was kind of curious about this. I kind of thought that Phil had kind of had his time and Keeble had gone, no, screw it, you're in prison now. I didn't realise that he could still sort of end this prison thing at any moment. I didn't realise it was all sort of hanging in the air. So presumably this is going to be Phil kind of out of prison within the next 2 weeks or so, I assume. I do think that Keeble would be better off, if I was Keeble, I would be like, cheers for the information, and you can stay in prison. I've always assumed that's what Keeble was going to do. Apparently not. Apparently Keeble is well prepared, if it gets her a promotion, to let Phil Mitchell roam the streets some more and cause us some more crimes to investigate. How can you... I don't know. This is the same police force that employ Callum Highway, so there's no logic to it whatsoever. But yeah, there we go. So none. Phil will be out of prison probably next week, which, fine. We always knew who it was going to be. I don't mind it as much as you do, but Phil was never staying in prison, so there you go.
No. I mean, I acknowledge that Phil was never going to stay in prison, but I just think Phil's had his time on the square. But that's just a me issue. That's just a me problem. Just a me problem.
Yes,
I know.
Yeah, not just you.
So that's. Again, comment below if you think that Phil is an issue for you too. and anything we talk about on the show. You can also get in touch with us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly. So, also this week, Vinny has to prove himself to his family, and with a little help with Dotty, he does. Dotty and Suki have become very close and very pally and friendly to each other, which I thought was quite nice, seeing scenes with them together. But also, Bernie's got her old job back at the call centre after helping Vinny out. And who else is working at the call centre but Molly? Molly's back as well.
Yay!
So that's lovely.
Elsa!
And they made a plan together where they're going to... They went on strike because the contract wasn't very fair. But... unfortunately, it was more of a distraction for Bernie, all these shenanigans, because she is missing Roland, and every time Rainie goes past, she's always kind of upset. And unfortunately, she started to leak. Yeah, she did. She started to leak from her breast when she saw Roland the final time this week, and Dotty kind of was a sympathetic ear for her there as well. So Dotty's kind of taken a bit of a 180 turn, turned into quite a kind character, looking after Vinny after everything she did to him, looking after Suki, looking after Bernie. I quite like this Dotty.
Yeah, I mean, there was elements of the old Dotty there, wasn't there? When she kind of came in after the protest, it was kind of like, we won that one. You'll never win. I'm part of the family now. I saved the Panasaur's millions. Ah, ha 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 ha. And then became sympathetic with sort of Bernie's plight after that. Now this whole Bernie thing, we were discussing this a couple of weeks ago, and we said that it was kind of quite surprising, I said that it was quite surprising and a little bit nice not to have sort of a surrogate mother suddenly realise that she wants to keep the baby. And I thought it was quite a refreshing change not to have that. Having said that, apparently so, but I'm not criticising this, actually, because it does feel right. It feels natural, doesn't it? Like, in a lot of ways, I've never been able to understand how anyone can do that. I'm not a woman, so I don't understand, I obviously don't understand the maternal instinct per se. However, shut up. But, I do understand what Ben is going through at the moment. And you'd think, actually, with all the grief that the Taylors have had to go through the past year, it sort of makes sense that they'd sort of want to cling to any sort of happiness and family that they can.
Yeah.
So where now, I mean, we'll talk about Molly in a second, so I'm delighted to have Molly back. Didn't realise who it was because there wasn't there wasn't a blizzard blowing around like there normally was whenever Molly appeared. But we're seeing her in normal weather now, so it's nice to see Molly back. I'm delighted to see Molly back. I like her a lot. So, do you think that this is now going to become a problem for Rainie, who has settled into motherhood, it seems, like a duck to water? Like, Rainie's great at this, it would appear, like pushing the pram around, looking. I thought Rainie looked great this week, actually. I thought the character looked quite fresh, and seemingly this was all she needed to sort of sort herself out. So, this is Rainie happy. Do you think that Bernie is going to? Are we seeing what we're heading towards? Custody battle, or is Bernie going to accept it, or what? Because we shouldn't forget this isn't the first time that Bernie has been in a similar sort of position where she has lost a baby. I don't know if the writers necessarily remember that, but this isn't Bernie's first sort of rodeo with this sort of thing, is it? So, what do you think?
You're really going down on the writers this week. They don't look back at the past. But yes, you're right to say, I don't know if the writer said that. No, I know you don't. Rainie was positively glowing this week, and it was lovely seeing her with the kid. You're absolutely right. She looked great as a mother. She was looking after Roland really nicely. She was also looking after her overgrown kid, Stuart, who's just had the operation. Briefly touch on that because he kind of... he's denying all painkillers, isn't he? Well, he's not taking a very strong painkiller, and he's without them really seeing. And pink custard's not doing the trick either. And without them seeing, he's in a lot of pain. So that's clearly somewhere where we're heading. And I wonder if that distraction from Stuart is going to be what Bernie uses as a kind of a tactic, as a technique to kind of get closer with Roland, offering to look after him more, taking him in more. And I wonder if Molly's going to be the one who kind of sees this and kind of negotiates it and plays the devil's advocate with Bernie and Rainie.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, Stuart obviously is underplaying how much pain he's in at the moment. So it does seem that this painkiller worry that he had is going to raise its head in the coming weeks, I should think. Which will be interesting. You may be right that Bernie may take advantage of that. To an extent, I hope it's not. I hope I hope this isn't one of those stories where Bernie automatically becomes this sort of ruthless, sort of emotional manipulator and just wants to, and is just trying to, and just sees it as a fact that, well, clearly my baby is not safe in this scenario, so I'll be having that back, please, thank you very much. And no, it's not called Roland. My mum, she was watching this week, and she said, Roland. I've actually called the kid Roland. Roland went off and won. I was like, well, what can I say, Mum? Wow. What can I say? I mean, she does this with kids' names. My mother. She does this with kids' names. My mother. 9 times out of 10, if you say, "What's the baby called?" and you'll give her the name, then she'll repeat it in a disdainful tone. She's just going to call me Harriet once upon a time. Do I look like a Harriet? Could I have been a girl? Right.
Your mum sounds a little bit. You'd suit Harriet, I think, but your mum sounds a little bit like Vi. Maybe that's why you like Vi so much.
Maybe why you don't like her so much.
I love your mum. How dare you? How dare you?
She wrecked one podcast. She made it difficult for us to record one podcast by driving away too loudly. You had to press the re-record button once.
Her car.
Let it
She wasn't driving to work. That was the point. She wasn't driving to work. She was sat on the driveway, just going row, row, row for half an hour.
No, she wasn't.
Vi.
She wasn't driving a quad bike. Oh, honestly.
She was revving her engine unnecessarily loud.
I mean, there was a few things this week. Obviously, Molly's back, so that's interesting. Am I the only one that's absolutely amazed that the whole sort of call centre thing is back? It felt like this had completely disappeared into the ether, and that the Panasars had nothing to do with sort of pest control anymore. All of a sudden, there's this thriving sort of reception company where the phones are constantly ringing to deal with all the vermin problems in Albert Square and London. Which requires them to have a whole team of staff on the phones. When previously, when we used to sort of look into the offices, there was nobody ever there. And all of a sudden, this place is like a factory.
It's thriving, absolutely thriving. That company,
thriving.
Yeah, at least what is it? Eight employees outside protesting, and easily led as well because they signed those contracts. Yeah, and they signed those contracts saying, like, you know, they can only take like a 10-minute pee break, and anything they do other than that, they have to pay for. Then they get teased with a football table and an arcade machine. So the whole time they're probably sitting there on the phone kind of going, God, I wish I could play them right now, but I can't because I'm on the phone. I haven't had my pee break yet. And then as soon as Bernie walked inside, not even kind of saying like, I'm going back inside because of what Dotty said, they just followed like sheep. So like, they found some good, I don't know where they found them, but my God, they found some really loyal employees in that place. Like, fickle as hell.
Extras aren't they? Extras will do whatever the lead character wants them to do. Or
to
follow
be.
you anywhere. Are we going off a cliff? Right, off we go. Oh,
Follow.
like lemmings. It's like lemmings. Anyway, there we are. So, I mean, yes, obviously the sort of side story with that is that Vinny is still trying to prove himself. Suki has finally sort of relented and is sort of letting Vinny take charge of this. Dotty sort of saved the day, like we said, and now everything seems to have settled and Suki was none the wiser, which is nice. Now, there was a bit of an Ash mention this week, do you remember? So is Ash due to return? Because we sort of had Suki sort of remembering that her and Ash don't have the best relationship. So have we got a return for Ash coming soon while Kirat's away? Are all the Panasars going to be coming together again soon? What do you think?
I hope so. I miss Ash. I mean, it feels weird that when they did the max exodus of of lesbian characters, that you know, one of them hopefully should come back at some point. So it's nice. It's nice that Ash is coming back. I don't know what her role would be on the show, other than, I don't know. I mean, Vinny's got his support network now with Dotty. Unless Dotty's got some kind of ulterior motive. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that Dotty's trying to get the Panasar money. Maybe that's the plan after all. But it just feels... you know what I mean? I can't see the ultimate goal with Dotty kind of being friendly with Vinny. It feels quite natural that she's just being nice to him. So that's a nice thing to do. You know? But then that's not what we know Dotty for being.
Yeah, exactly. But I do quite like... But the thing is, though, Dotty has always sort of craved a family, and now she's screwed everything up with Sonia and everybody in that category. I'm quite enjoying her sort of little developing relationship with Suki. I like those two sort of reluctantly starting to like each other. That's nice. You know, that little scene this week where they were you know, cooking together. They were sort of throwing bars. Can you chop an onion? Is that all right? And sort of smiling at each other. I like that. That's nice. And she seems to be able to be keeping Suki interested in Vinny, and so I quite like that. I quite like Dotty's place in the Panasar. So I kind of hope actually that she's being honest, and that she wants to just be in this nice family, and that Suki's going to take her in. As far as Ash returning is concerned, I like the idea that there is obviously such kind of bad history between Suki and Ash. We have also got that little demon of the fact that Eve and Suki, you know, whenever they get back round to it again, are sort of interested in each other. Eve was kind of interested in Ash at one point, so as loath as I am to admit it, I'm madly hoping that there's going to be some sort of mother-daughter lesbian affair, because if you're going to make Suki have sex with one of Ash's partners, let's go the full hog. If they're both bisexual, let's make it all happen again. Why not? That'd be a great thing. And then what will happen is we will have and then what will happen is my dream episode will be that, you know, Suki will be doing other stuff with some kids, winding Vinny up, winding Kirat up, and then once that comes out, we'll have some massive four-hander with just the Panasars where they all scream at each other for an episode, and it'll be amazing. That's what I want out of this, Alex. That's my dream scenario. Just a big old Panasar 4-5-hander. I'd love that. That would be perfect. So that's what I want. And which means usually that's nothing close to what I'm getting.
We can all but dream. We can always but dream. And end it with Daddy Panasar walking through the door and being like, hello, Suki. And then because that'd be nice. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
So yeah, there we go. That was the Panasars and Bernie this week. So yeah, Bernie basically is... we're going to have some baby problems over the coming weeks, so that's going to be difficult, isn't it?
Quickly, we're going to briefly just chat about Linda's story, because we have a really good I Ain't Want to Gossip to talk about, where we've got, which we posted on our Twitter, and it's a bit of a talking point last week, which we didn't have time to talk about, so we want to talk about it this week. So keep listening for that, or watching if you're watching us on YouTube. But Linda is on the bottle, alcoholism, very bad. And Nancy has decided that instead of pushing her mum away, she's gonna help her mum out. But not really. but not really. Martin's not very happy about it. And
No.
Zack's kind of stuck in the middle, and kind of stuck in the middle again. Martin's a bit concerned that the kids are going to find the vodka bottle. Strangely enough, he's concerned that the kids are going to find the vodka bottle amongst the bleach, and the vodka bottle's his main problem. What the kids will find under the under the cupboard sink. So, that was a strange thing. But Zack's kind of playing in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, this is the same woman who, like, Nancy found about 3 bottles in her suitcase, and there's one underneath the sink, so that's at least 4 vodka bottles that Linda's got on the go at the moment, and she's on the wine. She's drinking all of Sharon's wine, I've noticed as well, because that looks suspicious. That bottle that she had at the end of the week looks
her
suspiciously
cellar of
like
wine.
A bottle of. It looked suspiciously like a bottle of Sharon's room temperature white out of the cupboard. The one that Sharon always turns to when she's in the middle of a crisis. So, yeah, she does, doesn't she? She grabs a Pinot out of the cupboard and starts downing it from the bottle. That's our Sharon. Yeah. And it seems that Linda is... so, really, an alcoholic living with Sharon is not a great idea. Never worked with Phil. Is not going to work with Linda.
I mean...
but there we go, then. So there we go. So, yes, we will move on now to I Want to Gossip.
And you know me, I ain't want to gossip.
So, we have a very interesting topic coming up very shortly, but there was one comment from one of our viewers and listeners that I wanted to read out regarding the Ben storyline, which, yes, we were ever so slightly critical of, but, balance is important to us. And Stephen Cabo Brody on our Facebook said, "Sorry, I understand the points being made by everyone here, but I really enjoyed the episode." Talking about the episode where all this is basically, teased and revealed. I found it annoying that for the past few months Ben was just hung over from his crazy nights out that we never saw anything of, but now the twist makes complete sense of it. Without his dad around to prove himself to, he's derailed again, and it's honestly made me interested in the character for the first time in a very long time. So, there's always another side to what people are looking at with these stories. Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Ben, 9 times out of 10, Ben is a mess, isn't he? In terms of his personality, he's normally very angst ridden. He's always been like this, right? All the many sort of different faces of Ben. One of his many sort of attributes has been angst, and this sort of era of Ben is no different. Do you think that he is still sort of relying on pleasing Phil in terms of sort of being himself? Do you think that's still as important to him as it always was, or as it always has been?
Yeah, I mean, the family business was brought up again this week, wasn't it? And the fact Ben brought it up himself, and he said that he's been asked by Kat to kind of run the family business, and he seemed to take a degree of satisfaction in saying that to Sharon, and Sharon was that instant. That's what caused her to be very worried. So yes, I think there's always going to be that tone, isn't there? He's never going to be good enough in Phil's eyes. And Phil's always trying to. We've said this before on previous podcasts. Phil's always trying to find a new son, isn't he? Like he did it with Denny. He's then started doing it with Kat's son. There's always another one down the line, and so Tommy, and he'll probably, if he's still on the show in 15 years' time, then he'll probably do it with Louise's child as well. So it's just going to constantly go down the line with Keanu, as Phil used to say. Interesting point actually that person had written on Facebook, and that is actually something. Maybe we should give the writers credit for this. When there was lots of scenes when Ben would come home, would be very, very drunk, so it would allude to the fact that he'd been out late, which could then arguably be alluded to the fact that he attacked someone, the Walford attacker. So perhaps we weren't privy to it, but perhaps this Walford attacker storyline was always on the books for the for the writers of EastEnders.
Yeah,
it would have been nice if they'd let us know a bit earlier, though,
Yeah, this is what I mean. I just think that there should have been more made out of the mystery, and then maybe I wouldn't be quite so eye-roll about it. If we were sort of made... If the past few months had sort of been a bit more, what is Ben doing? What is Ben up to, rather than, Ben's on the lash because he's angry. And that's sort of, we just accepted that. I think there should have been more made out of the mystery. I think they should have made more out of the Walford attacker mystery. That would have been a really intriguing storyline. That was my main criticism of it, and the fact that it's this. But there we go. So yeah, do let us know in the comment section below any of your thoughts about it. Now then, Alexander, you have a topic for us to discuss.
I do. So because of time restraints last week, we couldn't do it, but I really was very keen to do it. I posted it on our Twitter and asked for people's comments on there, or to email us. which you did, so I'll read some of those out after Rob and I have had a bit of a chat about it. But basically, Charlie Lawson of more Coronation Street fame was on the lovely channel GB News talking about whether British soaps are becoming too woke. And Dan Wotton decided to kind of, string things along a little bit and wind things up a bit, like the way he does. And they basically... what Charlie said was that Coronation Street star Charlie Lawson has slammed British soaps for ticking boxes in a bid to be woke, claiming viewers will eventually get bored and switch off. He told Dan Wotton, "We're great at being a silent minority in this bloody country over a great deal of things, but I try not to be." And then he goes on to kind of saying that when he did his stint on Coronation Street, his character had to temporarily be in a wheelchair, and that if this was today, that he would have been recast by someone who is permanently in a wheelchair, which is a ridiculous knee-jerk thing to say. Of course it is. And also, I like the fact I know, and also to say that he is like the silent majority, this white male, is also rather shocking. But the undertones of this is what I'm more interested in. I would like to... I just want to ask you, Rob, do you think that soaps are too woke? Do you think they're kind of deliberately now kind of going down the storylines where they're kind of ticking boxes? They're trying to go down, storylines they've never done before. I've argued before that they seem to have like the kind of like a story of the week where they're kind of doing another, like they did the... FGM storyline. They've done, numerous other storylines. The Ben's death storyline when they did, and it seems to be like kind of they're doing it, purposely just kind of like, a bit shocking, try to pull some viewers in for that week. Rightly or wrongly, they kind of make people aware, and whether they're doing it the right way, again, that's an argument in itself. Do you think soaps are going too far that way and that we should go back down the kind of kitchen sink route?
Well, first of all, to answer this question, I'd love to know what your definition of woke is, because to me, the phrase woke is one of the most irritating, stupid, senseless phrases that has come out of the past 20 years. Like, the term woke is supposed to mean politically aware and up to date with modern thinking. That is all that means. And yet it has been turned into what is supposed to be an insult. You calling me woke? Thank you. Then you were automatically crediting me with more emotional maturity than you are, you absolute turd. Anyway, that's that out of the way. In terms of what I am assuming this article is supposed to be questioning as to whether... Because this all falls into the category of snowflakery and all that kind of rubbish, doesn't it? And that's basically what this question is are we sort of pandering to things, and are we trying to tick box all that rubbish, which seems to be such a hot topic at the moment, and it makes me want to slap people, because it's like, what is your problem? Like, so what? You've had all these many years of representation on screen. We're talking close to 100 years. The BBC is celebrating its 100th centenary this year, and let me tell you, probably about 98 years worth of that TV has mainly been dominated by sort of white, straight, in inverted commas, normal people. So what, all of a sudden, a few underrepresented people are coming to the forefront, and that's now a problem, is it? Get a grip. Now, the problem is as well, though, is the way that the stories are told can sometimes come across a bit preachy, and that's where the issue comes in. Because, EastEnders has done it a little bit over the past, I'd say maybe 2 years or so, where it sort of feels like, right, sit down everybody, this is our lesson on FGM, this is our story on racism, this is our story on homophobia. The Ben and Callum storyline is a prime example of that at the moment. I think the problem is that Callum, especially, his dialogue has been quite on the nose at the moment. He's not talking like a real human being. He's talking like a writer that he's trying to say something about homophobia, and that's very different. It's not the character talking; it's the writer talking, and there's different ways of doing that. And that's how you get accused of being woke, because it comes across as preaching. People don't like being preached to. If they don't feel they're being preached at, and they're simply watching a story about somebody and can then at the end of it say, wow, that was interesting, I learned something, I didn't realise that branch of humanity was going through that, that's a good thing. That's the right way of doing it. It's when preaching happens that it's woke and people kick off about it. It does wind me up, but sometimes you can be open to this discussion. I think now and again the TV shows, the soaps especially, can open themselves up to it because they sometimes tend to go in at such a basic level, and it's kind of like this week we're going to talk about racism. Isn't racism bad? It's like, well, yeah, obviously it is. What else have you got to say about it? We know that racism's bad. We know that homophobia is bad. What are you going to tell us about it? Tell us more other than homophobia is bad. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. I get the discussion. I get the conversation, and I get the question. But I think it's more a case of it's the way it's not what you're saying, it's the way that you say it. That I think is, especially the soaps problem at the moment. I think the soaps have gone a little bit basic. And I'm not just talking about EastEnders here. I think, because I've seen Corrie do it, I've seen Emmerdale do it. Hollyoaks, I don't know. I'm going to guess they do it too, because it's just that the problem with soaps is that they are a story conveyor belt. Stories have to constantly be coming out of one end and going out of the other. And what that can lead to sometimes is if you want to do an issue storyline, because they've got into the habit of trying to tell these stories so quickly, it feels like a preach. It feels like a lesson. It's the longer stories. Do you feel like the Jean story, for example? Do you feel like you're being preached to about bipolar? Do you feel like you are people with bipolar? And do you feel like you're being preached to about the disorder?
Not with that, no. I mean, there's been other stories when I maybe have felt like, and as you said yourself, it felt a bit like, sit down, here's a story, we're going to tell you, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I completely agree with you. It's like our definition of woke is probably one completely different to what Dan Wotton had thought his definition of woke is. And, to show a representation on television of, different groups, sexualities, races, that's an okay thing to do, there's not a problem there. I feel like they're picking on soaps deliberately here because it's almost like kicking a sick puppy. They know that soaps aren't doing particularly very well with ratings right now, and comparatively to like TV shows, these big hitters nowadays. And they know that television as a landscape, soaps is kind of drowning underneath it while like other shows are kind of coming to the top. And that's, so I think that this argument could be made with anything. If you think about it, it could be made with music, it could be made with any kind of art form, theatre. But they've chosen soap deliberately because that's the sick puppy at the moment. That's the one that's having a bit of trouble kind of getting to the top. So, and let's be honest with you, I don't think it's anything new that soaps have done like stories. In the 90s, they did big stories, where they're looking into something that like as a hot topic of the day, drugs or alcoholism and so on and so forth, and EastEnders have been doing it since 1985. From the very beginning they were doing like, Angie's alcoholism storyline, that was groundbreaking. Colin's homosexuality storyline, that was groundbreaking in 1985. And so, the fact that, soaps still want to do it, it's just, it feels like, it stands out more now because I suppose because they have to, as you say, they have to churn out so much now. It seems a bit difficult to kind of maybe do it in such a coherent manner, and that's why it doesn't seem to, hit the mark maybe quite so well.
I think what the soap's problem is at the moment is that they are trying to combine fast storytelling because they're trying to keep up with what they perceive to be their audience's expectations, whilst still trying to tell these stories, because it seems to be the belief that the soap audiences haven't got the attention span that they once had. That you can't take a story like, a homophobia story and really kind of tell it across a single year. You've got to sort of make it in quite short, sharp kind of segments, like we've had with Ben and Callum, so that you're getting sort of the highlights of what this storyline should be, as opposed to really sort of making it a character piece. Character pieces are much less preachy than telling it like that. And that, I think, is the problem with it, because if you're preaching to people, that's how they feel, and that's how these ridiculous phrases like woke and snowflake get thrown around, because they feel like, well, I know that, so why are you telling me that? And it's like, that's not the point of it. And that's when things start to go wrong, is when the story misses the point, or when viewers miss the point because they are already kind of, they've started the story with the wrong attitude because of the way that the story is being told to them. I hope that and again with the soaps as a whole, is because soaps have had to pick up they've had to outdo each other. I feel like a lot of the soaps have sort of lost their individuality because they've bent themselves so much out of shape trying to compete with one another. And I mean, bent themselves so much out of their own shape trying to compete with one another. You can't necessarily, there's only so much of EastEnders that wouldn't happen in Corrie now. You can't necessarily hear a story and go, oh, that's such an EastEnders story. That's such a Coronation Street story. That's such an Emmerdale story. That's not really a thing anymore. And that's as a result of this, and because of the soaps been trying to compete with one another, it doesn't mix well with this sort of storytelling. That's the problem, in my view.
No.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Maybe, yes, I agree with you there. I think the uniqueness of each soap is something that they need to maybe bring back. That can only come in time. I mean, I wouldn't mind read just a couple of... There's an email I just like to read out and a couple of tweets that we received. The first email is from Clen Tops123. Thank you for getting in touch. And it said, "Hi, Alex and Rob. Hello. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on your tweet. Personally, I don't think woke is the correct way to describe this, but they are definitely some box-ticking aspects, especially with EastEnders. For example, the first male breast cancer story, the first schizophrenia story, the first FGM story. I think it's great that EastEnders are representing issues that don't get talked about much in our society, but at the same time, it does feel slightly pushed onto us." And I just follow that on with a tweet from @HigginsTweeted, and he wrote, or she wrote, "Would not say woke, but defo ticking too many BBC action line boxes. Bring back the character-driven drama." I mean, I think that kind of sums up. Well, I think you've pretty much said everything you've said yourself in those, in that email there.
But this is the problem. This is where the phrase "ticking boxes" is dangerous, because what are you accusing? I'm not having to go at the person. There's not one person saying that. Quite a few people say this, and I'm more talking about the opinion rather than the person who said it. But what are you calling ticking boxes? The representation of a gay person on screen, a black family. Do you realise that Corrie's most recent new family, I can't remember what they're called now, but they had a new family move onto the street, I think maybe a couple of years ago. 60 years, that's their first ever black family. In 60 years, that was Corrie's first ever black family. Now, obviously, EastEnders has had
woke
characters and families. That's what they were being accused of. It's kind of like, after 60 years, that's woke, is it? Really?
Yeah,
so that's what the soaps have to.
That's
what the soaps have to constantly battle. That's what the soaps have to constantly battle. Now, there is a conversation about political climates that isn't worth us having on this podcast. Me and Alex have very similar political opinions, some of which you may well have been able to garner from what we've said over several podcasts, But there is, I think, very much to do with the political climate at the moment. There is a surge of one particular type of opinion that has sort of taken over the landscape a little bit, that doesn't sit well with that. So I think there's more to it rather than just the soaps are being woke. There's a lot more to it. It's a lot more complicated than that, and it's a lot more textured than that. So there you go.
It's an interesting discussion, and I think that this should continue. So I'd be really interested if people would get in touch with us. Thank you for anyone who has tweeted us or sent us emails. I'm really sorry. I did have loads more to read out, but we've run our time. But if people want to expand this conversation, send us what you think. And there's only one way, or one person who knows how to do that, and that is Rob. How can people get in touch with us, Rob?
You can contact us on Twitter and Instagram @Walford Weekly. You can find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications about our spoiler videos. And you can listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify, or any of your favourite podcast sites. You can email us at robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. I've been here since episode 128. This is episode, 203? That's the first time I've ever said that without having to look at my lines. Woohoo! There we go.
Why do you think I cut off from you whenever the video
I've
for those
settled
bits?
in. I know, because I look clueless and scared, but I settled. I've done it. I've arrived now. There we go. Marvellous. Thank you very much for another lovely podcast, Alex. I hope you enjoyed that. And by the time I next see you, you'll be an old man. So the happiest of birthdays to you, Alex. I hope you have a lovely time and get very, very drunk on whiskey. Or whatever old men drink these days. Rum. Smoke a few senior service. Some other...
Be like Popeye with my pipe.
Don't forget to wish Alex a happy birthday in the comment section below. And we will be back same time next week. So until then, it's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him, wherever he is on the screen right now. I never know. Bye.
Bye.